Welcome to Kitty's Kitchen. Today we're going to make mushrooms dehydrated in the oven for maximum mushroom flavor. I think you'll like this way of preserving mushrooms. You get maximum mushroom flavor and then you can have your mushrooms on hand for whatever you want to use them for. What I have here is about 1.5 pounds of sliced mushrooms. I've lined my cookie sheet with parchment paper. This is also a good way to use up mushrooms that are in your fridge that you don't have a use for. Then you can put them in the freezer and have them on hand for later. I've set my oven for 375 Fahrenheit. And I'm going to put this pan into the oven for about 15 minutes. We're going to turn them in about 15 minutes. I haven't salted them. They're just plain like this. We're not going to spice them at all. You probably could if you wanted to, but I'm not going to because we're going to use them in recipes later on, so we don't have any flavorings. We're cooking them. I suppose we're also semi-dehydrating them. And the reason for that is we don't want the liquid in the mushrooms to spoil whatever dishes that we're going to cook in the future. Also, you get a nice texture when you freeze them this way. Now this is, as I said, this is about 1.5 pounds of sliced mushrooms, and this is the end result. This is what we're going to end up with. Okay, this is what they look like after 15 minutes in the oven. I don't know if you can, how well you can see them, but you can see a little bit of moisture. And they've started to reduce in size. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flip them over. You don't have to be too careful about this. You just want to mix them around. There, you can see the moisture. So what we're doing is we're slightly dehydrating the mushrooms, but we want some of the moisture to dry back into the mushroom. We don't want to give that little bit of moisture flavor away. So you can see from when we started out, they look a lot smaller, and that's what we want. You don't have to worry about getting them in a complete single layer. Just about there is good enough. Because we don't want our mushrooms to be completely dehydrated. We just want them to no longer give up their moisture so that when we put them in other dishes like pizza, they don't let go of that moisture into our food. So I don't know if you can see that okay. So this is what they should look like 15 minutes after, or approximately 15 minutes after we've put them in the oven. Now we've turned them over, and we're going to put them back in the oven for another 15 or 20 minutes. Okay, we're back after about 15 minutes. Now keep an eye on them at 10, 15. If you cook them a little bit more, that would be fine as well. The only thing is you don't want to burn them. They would just be a little bit, if you forget them in the oven, they'll just be a little bit chewier. So what I've done to show you is here is the before and after. These are how they started out as raw. It's almost like a double layer. And this is them after about 25 minutes in the oven, turned after about 15 minutes. And I'm not sure if how well you can see it, but you see they're about half the size, like that. And you'll see that you'll see the moisture on the bottom of the parchment paper is almost completely dried. That's what you want. If there's a little bit of moisture, don't worry about that, because we don't want our mushrooms to be crispy. Well, unless you want them crispy or completely dehydrated. We want them to have some texture, enough texture so that we can put them on our pizza or in our omelets and still have that mushroom flavor without all the liquid going into our food. So what I'm going to do now, this is all you have to do to them. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put them in a plate and let them cool. And then you can use them right away, or you can put them in the freezer and they're good for a long time. You can just take out the amount you want for that particular dish and you're good to go. Okay, I'm going to take them off the parchment paper and put them into a bowl so that you can see what they look like. So you can see there is a little bit of moisture, but very, very little. And you actually want that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put them all into a pile in the middle. So that's what you want your parchment paper to look like. Not completely dry, but almost. And we'll just put them on a plate to cool. If you were going to eat them right away, of course, you don't have to cool them if you don't want to. This is, I'm preparing them for the freezer.